Welcome, no question about that. We're talking about Brentford 4, Manchester United 3, the United women's side, and looking ahead to Bilbao on Thursday. I'm Ed with Daniel today. How's it going?
I'm all right. How are you?
Doing all right. Another week, another Manchester United defeat. 16 in the league. How is that possible? 16.
With the Cup Kings.
Unbelievable. 16 in the league. You know, we got Chelsea, Villa, and who's the other side before we close out the season? I forget now. Could well end up with losing half our games this season. It wouldn't be a surprise. They'll play the kids against Chelsea before the final. One would hope. Touch wood, the final. And then Villa on the last day of the season is going to be a washout anyway.
That's after the Europa final.
That's after the Europa final, yeah. Anyway, let's talk about this one. It was Brentford. That was totally old school. They just went long. So long throws, crosses from wide areas, exploiting our weaknesses or naivety in the channels and the fullbacks. And I reckon at least 3 of the goals were completely preventable today.
I felt like the first one was a bit one of those pinball goals Maguire talked about. That was like Leon's first goal in the second leg, where it was quite hard to pinpoint someone saying, like, even Amas, who times his jump quite well, he just doesn't get to the ball. And that felt,
yeah.
I mean, if we look at even our goal, because I thought that midweek was probably Garnacho's best game for us, and he was someone I was sort of a week ago not happy to sell, but someone I felt like if we don't qualify for the Champions League, we'd have to sell him, because I think that with the money we could buy a better player. But he's had a good few days, and because we know he's got talent. And I guess what was pleasing with the way that we scored the first goal was the cross, like that cross that Hoyland's been waiting 2 years for. Finally, instantly I love the way Amorim says his name, Rasmus. But not as much as I love the way he says how Sociedad. Like I was trying before we came on air. I was trying to find the tape of him saying how Sociedad, so I could play it, but I couldn't find it. But if you've heard it, you'll know what I mean.
Yeah,
it is good.
Yeah, perfect from Garnacho. Like the 1-2 with Kobe Mainu, lovely ball from Kobe into the channel. First time from Garnacho right into the space, and the third man run from Mount. So
I thought you were going to say first time he's played a decent cross. Also that. But the pass from Mainu also is worth noting, because that is the kind of pass he does not really play.
Yeah.
And those kinds of passes, they look simple. And if he can keep those kind of passes ticking over, one touch, simple but good, that will go some way towards getting him to where he needs to be to play in this team. And at the moment, he's not physical enough, and it looks like, in the final, assuming we get there, it'll be Casemiro or Degat. But it should really be him.
Yes, I mean, I totally agree. Like that from Kobe, more progressive in his passing. I reckon he's got the talent. He's very safe with it. I remember.
One of the things I enjoyed about him when I first watched him, when he first coming through, was the weight of pass. It wasn't just like the small space sorcery. It was the weight of pass that I really liked. And I'm sure, as you say, I'm sure he can do it.
Yeah, he has. There was. I remember the stat at the Euro. He'd played something like 99% of his passes sideways or backwards, and this is the criticism of him: not enough progressive passing. It's also what United need: a ball carrier and a progressor with the passing, both ideally in one player to go alongside Uarte, because United do have a problem moving the ball from the middle third into the final third if Bruno's not playing there, basically. So that was lovely. And then Garnacho created 5 chances today. And so whatever we think about his sort of erratic nature of his decision making in the final third, both finishing and
in the tattoo parlour. Fairly erratic decision making there.
Yeah, I mean, I always find it interesting with tattoos. Like, it's pretty much a lifetime decision unless you're on an awful lot of laser therapy. So you want to be really clear about what you... Anyway, I haven't got any.
I don't know if it's exactly that. I think, like, people just... not everyone's too fussed about that, and I respect that.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, definitely don't mean to sound like an old man. I think they're fine, but
I think it's inescapable that we're going to do that at this point of our lives.
Although
I was having a session, I was having a physio session the other day, and he had this guy, he had a student guy in with him, and he says to me, "How long have you been working for the Guardian?" I said 11 and a half years, because he asked me what I did, and he said, "You've been there 11 and a half years. That can't be right." It's like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, how old are you? 25?"
Yeah, sure.
I know, and I said, "No, I said you've just gone too low for this to be believable." Like, I'll take it, but yeah, you need to go a bit closer to reality for me to actually walk out of here thinking, "I look well, young me."
Sure, yeah. Your hairline looks like it as well.
Yeah.
I can talk. Anyway,
I always had a massive span of feathers.
Yeah,
even at my most hirsute.
My wife was looking at our wedding pictures the other day. We were married 14 years, and I still had the widow's peak then. So I'm just saying I was born with this, and I've got most of my hair. It's like surviving. I didn't feel old the other day when Beckham turned 50, though. I was just bloody hell. How's that possible? Alejandro Garnacho, will he end his career when he's 50? Will he look back and go, "Yeah, I've had a good career," to the standard of Beck's? Because I feel like the ceiling's really high, and you're like looking for the moments that will prove it. I ignore most of the noise on social media, the criticism, because he's got 10 goals and 11 goals and 10 assists this season. The only other players in the top 5 Euro leagues that are under 21 to get double figures, goals, assists are Doué
and Lamine
Yamal, both brilliant, absolutely brilliant players. And I don't think he's up to their standard right now, but players just develop at different rates. But could he get there?
Also, no, he's not going to be as good as Yamal, but who is? It's not that. Is he going to be good enough to play for United? And we know that he's a good enough substitute to play for a top team. I think we can safely say that if we wouldn't be talking about selling him if it wasn't for PSR.
Sure.
And if we didn't desperately need the money, we'd be glad to have him.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of the goals and assists, it's not just about, it is a numbers game in some way, but it's also not just a numbers game. It's whether you get in them. And very nice today, but so fucking well.
Yeah. Well,
no. What I mean is that I look much more at the way he played the other day with knee goals and knee assists, and I can say, okay, that felt like a big step forward.
Yeah.
Today, it also felt like a step forward, but it more felt like a step forward because of the way that I thought that he played and the decisions that he's making just seem to be better decisions. Scoring and assisting in a 4-3 defeat to Brentford in a game where we've changed half the team. Okay.
Yeah.
But is he gonna turn up in the final now and play well or play at all, I guess. But what I like about him is also I doubt that the attitude is spot on, but the desire is spot on. And I don't expect someone of his age to have necessarily an attitude that's spot on. Like, I bet he does fucking rate himself. I mean, I quite rated myself at his age, and I wasn't playing for Manchester United and Argentina. So, but I think he's prepared to work hard, and I think he's prepared to listen. And we've seen that by the fact that he's got back in the team, which isn't something that's happened to Marcus Rashford. Didn't happen something that happened to Marcus Rashford, incidentally.
Yeah.
So, and they were in that similar position of being rusticated until they sorted out their attitude. And so I think that we can rely on him to do what is necessary. The question is whether it can work on the pitch and work in the system. And even with the system, I think we're starting to see a little bit more about what Amorim said about if the system's flexible, anyone can play in it, and the system can change to accommodate them. That's the point of it. I think we're seeing a bit more of that. But at the same time, on the other hand, if we sold him for 40 million quid, do I think we could spend that, whatever that was worth, PSR and find a better player? Yeah, maybe. Probably. I mean, do I trust us to do it? No. But ideally, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. If we qualify for the Champions League, hopefully we won't have to.
Yeah. What I'd say is looks like we're definitely bringing in Mateus Cunha for 62.5 million, 40 million for Garnacho, a younger player with 5 years on his contract with a not dissimilar goals assists per 90 ratio, slightly below. Like, he's trending below his XG, whereas Cunha trends above. Like, would I say there's a 50% uplift justified there? Not really, and I don't think we'd consider it unless we were Brassic, basically.
So I'd say that I think Cunha is quite a lot better than Garnacho at this point, and if you swap Cunha for Garnacho in this team, we'd have quite a lot more points than we've got. Which isn't to say that Garnacho can't improve significantly, but what Cunha's doing, he's doing for Wolves, where you really have to make the most of the time on the ball that you get. And Garnacho's playing with these slightly better players.
In theory.
So
not in practice, yeah. All right. The defeat leaves United in 14th or 15th. I was looking back. We haven't beaten a team that is not domestic team, that is not Ipswich or Leicester since January.
Is that the derby?
No, that was a 0-0 draw.
No, the away win.
There was one on January the 20-something that we won, right? That's the last one that wasn't Leicester or Ipswich. That wasn't in the Europa League. It's one win in the last 6. It's 4 defeats in the last 6. It's 16 defeats in 34 games this season. I mean, it's absolutely brutal. If we weren't, not that I believe that there should be any pressure on Amorim just yet, but if we weren't heading towards the Europa final, fuck me, there would be some pressure on him. And it's like the bank of credit you're looking for. He's got to win the Europa League, otherwise we start next season. I said this at the end of last season. We're going to start next season and a few defeats, and he'll be in. Everyone will be going, bloody hell, are we on the right track here? So that's the worrying thing.
In fairness, though, he has
defeat after defeat is
the teams that he's picking in the league in the last few weeks have been also to do with the Europa. So there is a bit of that, and we've been saying the last few weeks that we can see this team improving. Not so that we now think it's good, but we went from a team that was conceding and not scoring to a team that got a bit harder to score against. Then we became a team that was a bit harder to score against, wasn't making chances. Then a team that was missing chances. And now we've started scoring a few goals. That's 6 goals this week. I'm not trying to make out like today was good or anything, but 6 goals in a week is an improvement. And this is and has been the big problem with this team. Well, one of the many massive problems with this team in this season and last season. Couldn't really score last season either. So, whilst I wouldn't exactly say I thought 3-0 in Bilbao was coming, I wasn't totally surprised when it did. And even the first 20, when they could have scored a couple, I felt like I had sort of satisfied myself personally, where I'm watching it thinking, I think we're better than this. I think we're better than these, and I think we'll beat them over 2 legs. Even though they could have scored here, they could have, like the header, Nico Williams should have scored. And then it was funny when I saw the team midweek and I see that Lindelof's in it. And it's just like, oh my God, how many times has this guy shagged us in the Europa League?
Or in any league.
But particularly, I don't know, I associate him particularly with like Sevilla twice, Villarreal. Like he was, I felt very active in those disasters. Like particularly the first Sevilla, which I thought was some of the best football we've played since Fergie in the first half, where we're 1-0 up and we don't score, and the COVID one. And we're only 1-0 up at half time, and then we contrived to give, I think it was half time, and we contrived to give them 2 goals in the second half. And I felt like Lindelof was quite culpable in that, but his hair looks good though. I'm quite enjoying his new hair.
Sure, that's the thing I like about him most.
He made those crucial 2 blocks, two crucial blocks. But those aside, I felt like even though they had more of the ball, they weren't pummeling us. And I felt like you could see that we're going to be able to score against this team. Whereas in the pod that we did leading up to the game, we're kind of going, set pieces.
Yeah, okay. And so the wider point being there is improvement in United's ability to create those patterns that Amorim wants, right? Especially in those sort of wide areas, because United's build-up is mostly wide under Amorim. Maybe that'll change next season if we get the right kind of player in central midfield, we'll be able to build up through the midfield. Today we got defensively, the problem was in wide areas. So the long throw for the first one.
We always concede even before we score. When Shaw heads back and because the goalkeeper doesn't do anything. And actually that's going in until it somehow kicks off the turf. And it's like a leg break, like an off break, sorry. And it was Yeah, that looked like it was going in until it was somehow took a peculiar bounce. But yeah, we weren't good from the set pieces. Also, they are quite good from them.
Yep, and they played around Harry Amas for the second goal. Kobe Mainoo should have been faster to come out to block the cross. I mean, I think that's some pretty naive defending.
Even before that, Mainoo has tried to sort of anticipate that kind of shrug and turn on the ball, and he's lost it. And that situation where they go around Harry Amas is come about because he wasn't strong enough in the tackle before that.
Yeah.
However, when the ball comes to the back post, I mean, I don't think this is why they scored, but it's two hands in the back on Fredriksson. It's a foul.
It is, and he probably could have been stronger there because Matthias de Ligt's lying on the floor with looks like a knee injury. I don't expect the referee to stop that.
No,
really,
of course not.
Or for Brentford to stop. Otherwise, players would go down all the time to break up play. He should have just held his head, honestly, rather than his knee, and then it'd have been they would have stopped the game. Yeah,
True that.
It is true, and it's right in his zone, of course, there. So if he had not been injured, he may well have been there to head it away. And then is it the third or the fourth goal comes from the break? I can't remember now.
The fourth goal.
I can't remember.
That second time we conceded 4 at Brentford.
Yeah, it is, yeah. I think it's the third goal they play through the middle, play through us as good finish. And then the fourth goal is Sharda again, isn't it, at the back post?
He played well, actually, I thought.
He did, and so did Wissa, and the other guy in the front for Brentford, who I'm forgetting now. Like, 3 of the goals, though, are pretty basic, and one's a nice piece of play. And maybe it's the average starting age of United today was 22, right? So it's one of the youngest teams that's played in the Premier League this season, or in fact ever. So maybe we can expect some naivety in how they
and the defenses never played together in front of a crap goalkeeper. It's all very easy. Like how when we let's assume we make it, and fuck it. We're playing next week. We're playing on Thursday.
Yeah.
How many of that team are going to start on Thursday?
Yeah, not many. Yeah.
We've got Ugarte,
Dorgu,
and
Ugarte, Garnacho,
and Garnacho. Yeah.
Yeah. Flappy Altai will definitely not be starting and likely off in the summer. I think we see why, even though Nan has been chucking one in every week, why Valendir's not been playing. He's just not very good. He's not very good with his hands. He scares the crap out of me. He's not very good with his feet either.
Yeah, he's crap.
Yeah, he's generally a bit crap. Yeah, he had that one good half against Arsenal, didn't he? But that was after he chucked one in before that. So.
I was watching the game today on my stream. Was being. And I feel like I'm going to get laughed at when I say this, like it's some kind of revelation, but genuinely, and I've watched a few games on it this season. So again, what I'm about to say should be so redundant, but I feel like I'd underestimated what a pair of cunts Keys and Gray are.
I wonder what you're going to say. For a moment, I thought you were going to praise them. Great analysis.
No, yeah. I never liked Keys, even when he was doing the sports news on TVAM and the job show with the late great Mike Morris. Yeah. Gray was good. Gray was sort of the first person, really, in a way, not the first person to attempt analysis, because I mean, ITV been doing it since the 70s when they sort of introduced co-commentation. They had really good panels on their World Cup. In the 70s World Cups, ITV's panel, they have like Pat Crerand and I can't remember who else they had now, but it's really there. My first job when I left university, it was the great. No one's getting a better job than this. I mean, it wasn't very well paid. I was a researcher on a show called The World Cup Years, the ITV Digital, now defunct. And my job was to watch all the old footage, including the studio bits, and just highlight which bits I thought might be good for the show.
Nice.
So I just literally for about 3 months, I guess it probably was. I just literally sat there watching old World Cup football.
Brilliant.
And include
But no one will have that job again, of course, because they just use software to do that these days. But yeah, what a shame. Nice.
Billy Bremner, Derek Dugan. But anyhow, what were we saying? Yeah, Keys and Gray. But Gray was like, he definitely moved on the level of analysis in the first instance that we were getting in the early years of Sky. Because he was and I remember before I got Sky, he was someone I thought was a prick. And a couple of like the early adopters at school were like, when you get Sky, you'll change your mind. And I did. But then obviously they get too high on the smell of their own farts and become unbearable.
Well,
Gray in
Keys
particular,
in particular is like a reactionary, isn't he? And he's just like everything. You just expect him to have his frame of reference is Sam Allardyce should have that job, and if he was called Allardyce, he would have had it. That's basically like just that sentence alone would summarize Keys' view of the world. And never liked him or agreed with much of what he had to say. What do you have to say about today? Is he after Ruben Amorim's head yet? He probably is, isn't he?
that's a picture. I don't know. But it was Greg's still doing also the imagined conversations. And he said, I'll just leave that to you, mate. And he's like, no, you don't want to play me in there, mate. And he's just left it to his mate, all that kind of imagined conversation nonsense. But it's not so much even, I'm not particularly even talking about the way they do their job, as you're watching it thinking, I'll fucking despise knowing you.
Yeah. He's not the company you want to keep, even if it's on a dodgy stream. Oh, dear. I wouldn't be surprised if he isn't calling for Ruben Amorim's head, but it's not the time yet. What do we think of United's second goal? Alejandro Garnacho cutting in, banging one in the top corner.
It's one of the shots. Yeah, well, it's one of those shots that we generally, when he winds them up, you're like, oh, fuck's sake. It's that. Except it went in this time.
Except it went in, yeah.
Yeah, great goal. But yeah, it's kind of like, it's not the kind of thing I want to see you doing more of at the same time.
No. I mean, it's a free goal, but you don't see too many of those from any team now because everyone's looking at the probabilities of success for a long-range shot at being 0.01 or less, and the probabilities of walking one in by overloading in wide areas and cutting one back is being much, much higher. So, but we'll take the free goal, even if it didn't mean much.
Nice that they were still trying in some way.
Yeah.
And nice that Ahmad then comes on and
scores a belter too, yeah.
And scores.
There was also Would you start him on Thursday?
Ahmad? Would I start Ahmad on Thursday?
We want to get fit for the final, because if the final one, I guess it depends. If it's against Bodo, we'll play Bruno in midfield and we'll play two attackers up front. If it's against Spurs, we probably won't. Casemiro plays in midfield and Bruno plays further, and it's one of Ahmad or Garnacho. And I guess if you're picking one, you're picking Ahmad, right?
Are we not? I don't know. I thought Ahmad. Were we not playing Ahmad at wing back in?
Or maybe we play him at wing back, yeah. But would we play Ahmad at wing back and Dorgu? Yeah, maybe we would.
I mean, I didn't like Dorgu's involvement in that second goal either. Actually, where you can see there's like a child under the ball.
Yeah, he's got some fair work to do. Yeah,
you should be able to judge where that ball's going to land, and you need to try and disturb that situation. I thought, but. Dorgu, I don't. I mean, we do actually have options for the first time in that final. I mean, I don't think Howard will play Thursday. I mean, I expect to see him off the bench at some point. I'm not sure he'll start Thursday, but then I would expect him to start the two games before the final, between now and the final.
West Ham and Chelsea. Yeah, you get his fitness up, right? Because I mean, if it is a choice between. Well, I mean, yeah, it depends. Like, if it's one of Garnacho and Ahmad, it's probably Ahmad because, he's more reliable in his creative output. If you play both of them and you're really going to go for it, which, to be fair, you'd expect to beat Bodo, even though they are a nice footballing side. Spurs play this high line, you want some pace to take advantage, even those fuckers beat us. I'm dreading this. Like, beating us 3 times this season. Like, can you imagine how bad this season will be and how depressed we're going to be all summer if we lose? After, giving up the second half of the season to focus on Europa, if we bloody lose to Spurs, it'll be awful.
Well, regular listeners will know.
You predicted this, yeah,
months ago. We primed you for this. Yeah. So it should already sort of be settled into your psyche as something that you've almost processed already.
Oh, God.
And now winning would be a bonus, but getting beat by Tottenham is what we're all expecting. But I can't ever expect that kind of bullshit. But the humiliation, would it be worse? Okay, here's one. Would it be worse to lose the Europa League final to Tottenham than it would have been to have lost that cup final to Palace with Pardew having that dance on the match of the day credits?
Oh, that'd be pretty bad as well. But just particularly this version of Tottenham, who are like 95% Spursy. I mean, they're dreadful. They're dreadful. And Big Ange, as much as I like him, has like doubled down on all the things that fail. Like this would be, and given that everything is focused on this, it's just so big. I mean, that's pretty bad in 2 cents. It's 2016 if we'd lost that, mind you. But it was a different state. The club at that point, we were going, okay, we're not far away. We're on the up. We weren't, but we thought we were. And right now, we're right at rock bottom, and this is the thing that could turn things around. So
the thing, I guess, is that we are getting a bit better, and Spurs are getting worse. I feel like it would not take much to be like, if you get the first goal against Tottenham, then you should be extremely well set. But I mean, imagine Bruno losing a Europa League final to fucking James Maddison.
Oh God!
I mean, it's funny because when I say that, and I think about losing to Tottenham, I remember Scholes saying that he wasn't worried about the 2008 Champions League final because he knew that there was no way that Fergie could get beat off Ron Grant. except
it nearly happened.
He really almost did.
Yeah, that's right. All right. I think we're bored of Brentford, aren't we? Can we talk briefly about the women's team? Who Mark Skinner has been under a lot of pressure this season. He's not well liked by a lot of people. If you take the Woso crowd on Twitter, he's a fraud and United have gone backwards and all of this stuff. But they're qualified for the Champions League. Got 2-2 draw at Old Trafford. Over 30,000 people at Old Trafford today to watch a women's team. 2-2 draw with City. They're guaranteed at least third. They play Arsenal on the final day of the season. They could come second. I mean, obviously Chelsea will run away with it again. It's not a bad performance after all of that.
No, I mean, I think it's Chelsea have won 7 in a row now. Is that right?
Yeah. They're miles ahead. They make all the right decisions in terms of their planning. Their budget's bigger than everyone else's as well. It's more than double United. So, not that it has to be. There's quite a lot of flexibility for cross sponsorship. Not that under austerity Jim that is going to happen, but like in the scenario of like this not being the club's focus, the women's team, them having to like work out of like porta cabins again, being kicked out of their own building again, and not having a huge budget, basically only buying freebies. This is it's pretty good.
Champions League and Cup final for the second year in a row is a great effort.
Yeah. Skinner got a new contract, which I think a few people are like, that was a bit early. Like, can we not wait until we see what we've done? But in the end, that's well earned for what they've achieved this season. So good for them. A couple of games left, and it could be a really, really excellent season after all the drama. Brexit Jim like dissing them every time he opens his bloody mouth. The other thing that's happening with Brexit Jim this week, I think word is out there, which we talked about earlier, or maybe I talked about it on the finance pod. I think it'd been generally expected in sort of circles that Nice is for sale, but confirmed this week by the Athletic. They're a couple of months behind the gossip, but Nice is up for sale for 300 million. I think part of the thinking there is, given UEFA has tightened the regulations, that there isn't really a pathway from Nice to United because the likelihood of them being in the same competition every year is fairly high. And he's been rude about Nice quite a few times, has Jim Ratcliffe, and he said
That's not very nice of him.
No, it's not very nice of him, is it? He said he didn't like watching them and they're boring. I was like, ouch.
And so obviously they said your mum was boring.
300 million is the asking price for Nice, apparently.
Is it possible that he could then take the money and buy more greater share of United?
Yeah, I mean, look, his wealth is, I don't know, at least 100 times more than that. So fine, yes, he could do. If the Glazers are open to selling more equity, I'm sure Jim would be up for buying more equity in United. Like it's entirely up to them whether they do that or not. I don't think he has a problem, like at his age, liquidating some of his capital. He's got plenty of cash on hand anyway, so he could certainly do it. Yeah,
he's currently trying to liquidate the rainforests, but when he's finished with that. But then if he did buy more off the Glazers, that would then mean that we could have more money to spend on players, right? If they
No.
is it not right if he buys more shares? Is that not how it works?
Not really. So the thing that would give flexibility is if some of the debt was paid down, that would reduce about 20 something million pounds worth of interest. There's a bit more on the revolving credit facility. So like wiping out some of that debt would help United to the tune of between 22 and 35 million a year, or push it up even higher in the worst case scenario when that revolving credit facility is really high. That's the thing that would help with the sale. They've already hit the cap on the owner equity funding, like that's allowed under PSR regulations anyway, right? So that's 90 million over 3 years. We've already done that. Or 105, sorry. 105 over 3 years. Already done that. There's no more that can go in. Like, what are you going to do, right? So, but one more step towards getting rid of the Glazers would be good if the Nice sale helps that. I kind of, like, I wrote my piece last week on, for the Substack, on what United's path to multi-club ownership might look like. Obviously, that kind of changes this scenario if they do sell Nice. You know, I was thinking because Enzo, whatever his name is, moving to come to United, then moving on to Lausanne on loan. He's an 18-year-old kid from Le Havre's academy, and there's the pathway to Nice, right? Now, what City have done is take that group. I mean, look at the Savio transfer, right? He went from Girona to Manchester City. They're both in the Champions League. How's that possible? Because he was actually only on loan from Girona to Troy, from Troy, another City group club, and he never actually played for Troy ever, right? So I'm thinking, oh, well, this is the pattern, right? You can like play around with the registration of the player. It also means you can shift players off the United books and have them on someone else's books for PSR purposes while still being in the group. It's also very useful financially. I think it's wrong in many, many levels, but that's what you can do. But it's apparently not where Sir Jim is heading if he's selling Nice.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, Lausanne's nice though. I haven't actually properly been to Switzerland. I've been into the airport and seen those clear perspex smoke boxes that they have. But Lausanne, I think, is beautiful, like on the lakes there.
Yeah, and I
think I learned that from the film of the 1954 World Cup, which I recommend it. The official film of the 1954 World Cup.
Nice.
I think probably one of my favourite World Cups.
I remember it like it was yesterday, Dan. Yeah.
Oh, I'm only 25, so.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you wouldn't remember that. You barely remember the last time United made the Europa League final last time, right? Since you're so young, you're just graduating out of short pants, as they call it.
Yeah. But yeah, so Bilbao this week.
Are we going to blow it, Daniel?
I don't think we're capable. I mean, I'd like if we could slot Ole's back four in. So we had a back four of Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, Lindelof, and Shaw. Or
on one leg,
Shaw was injured. Then yeah, I feel it was no. I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's possible. But if they score first, it'll get nervy.
He plays a full team though, doesn't he? So
definitely, it'll be the same team.
Maguire, Yoro, and either Shaw. Well, he talked about after the game today. He talked about managing Shaw's minutes, so it kind of sounded like Shaw would play on Thursday. So Maguire, Shaw, and Yoro at the back with Dorgu and one other as the wing backs. Mazraoui.
Is he injured, Mazraoui, now?
Is he injured? Oh, good question.
Well, he said after the game, he goes, Luce is dead and Dorgu's tired, which sort of had me thinking, okay, if Mazraoui's dead, but how would you even know that Dorgu's tired? And I don't feel like I'm being proper football man about this, really. But I am sort of thinking, did Dorgu go in there and say, I'm fucking exhausted? Which to me is just I didn't love it, because it just almost sounds like, are you stupid? If you're a player, you want to play every game, you just keep that stuff to yourself.
Yeah. How do they do it with the sports science these days? Because they manage the minutes, right? They're looking at what zone you're in, right? So they're managing how close they are to the red zone, because it's a good predictor of injuries and all of that kind of stuff. So it's the load of minutes leading up to games as well as the actual games itself, and they go on individual training routines as a result. I thought Mazraoui was on a different training routine this week because he trained away from the squad for some point. No, maybe I'm misunderstanding that or something like that. So
he did play very well in midweek, though. Like his ability in tight spaces on the ball, because we thought we decided he was a better wide centre back than a wing back.
I had,
because he doesn't have that much athleticism, but with a bit more athleticism around him, his ability in tight spaces on the ball and his confidence to take the ball is helpful, much more so than Dallow's.
Oh God, yeah, he's much better footballer than Dallow. I mean, his physicality is, I would guess, less than, he's got less capacity for running and minutes and all of that. Although he's played 50 games this season. We talked when Mazraoui joined about his injury record. 50 games. I think it's the biggest load he's ever had in his career, and not been injured. So it's a good shift. I think good shift. So yeah, pretty strong. Bruno comes back into the side. I don't know whether he plays in central midfield or in the front three.
I can't. With the 3-0 lead, you're playing Ugarte, and Casemiro. You're definitely
just to make sure. Yeah,
we do need to give both Amorim and Casemiro credit for Casemiro's rehabilitation.
Yeah.
That he decided what he could get out of him, and not only that, it feels like he's persuaded him to put the effort in.
Well, it's also that they switched it around a little bit. So if you look at some of the data, Uarte's off the charts in terms of his counter pressures, right? So they've got him pushing a little bit forward and Casemiro just sitting right in the counter pressure phase. Then Uarte drops back, and Casemiro does have some freedom to get into those third man runs, but he doesn't do it that often. They're not asking him to cover a lot of space, right? He doesn't have to run much. If he's going to move out of that zone, he's going to move into attacking spaces, like for that header at the back post and all of that. That we saw in midweek, and it's been a smart switch. We're using his physicality in the right areas, not asking him to try and cover 40 yards across the pitch because he can't do it. Ugarte can. The criticism of Ugarte is his passing, which is totally fair. It's not very good.
Other things, but yeah.
But the counter pressures, the interceptions, blocks, tackles, all of that, very good. So.
In fact, today there was a bit of classic Ugarte where he gives it away, gets booked retrieving it, and then lets him put in another cross.
Yeah.
I mean, do we think the goal that in midweek, that the Casemiro goal, is he going for goal or is it a flick onto the back post?
Let's call it a flick. I think he was going for goal and he didn't get it. He didn't get it clean.
Because he's done that a couple of times recently. He does it against for Højlund's goal last week as well, where he shoots and it's shit and it's an assist. And I think there was one quite recently before that as well, where his effort at goal is crap enough that someone else is able to score from it. Yeah, if you've got a 3-0 lead, you're not taking a chance. You're not thinking, well, let's get 4 and 5 and finish the tie. You're thinking the tie's finished unless we fuck up. So what team will make us the least likely to do that? And it'll be those two. Dorgu. Then, I mean, I'm not sure who the centre-backs will be. I guess it'll be Maguire,
Yoro and one other.
And one other. So that's either... That's
sure, Mazraoui or Lindelof. Yeah. Just winding down to the end of Lindelof's time at United. So what a day that will be. Poor Victor.
Big Vic. Yeah.
Yeah, we can't blow this, surely. We can't. I will have one eye on Spurs and Bodo because I'm hoping Spurs crumble in the Arctic Circle on the plastic pitch. Hopefully it's nice and cold. So
feels unlikely at this point.
Have you ever been to Bodo?
I haven't been to Norway. Have you?
Have you been to Glimt? I don't know.
Are they different places?
I don't know. Actually, I think the town's called Bodo. It's like 10-hour drive from the nearest town.
It's like Bodo / Glint. It's like one of my favourite albums is Graham Parsons' GP / Breathless Angel.
Yeah.
So I guess somehow I felt good vibes to them because it put me in mind of good Brit of that Graham Parsons album, which I highly recommend without equivocation.
It's a very good. It's a crossover country rock album. One of the first. Yeah, very good. Yeah, now we're really showing our age where we go, we love this album.
I don't fucking remember it from when it was released.
Wait, late 60s or early 70s? I can't remember. So
yeah,
neither of us were born. We should We should mention that. Yeah, but anyway, I would much prefer that Bodo/Glimt beat Spurs. We face them in the final on Spurs. Also make getting a ticket a bit easier, I'd imagine, since Bodo is not very large. I have been to Norway, although only to Oslo, which is beautiful, lovely. I like it. Yeah.
My only bit of Scandinavia is Stockholm for that Europa final.
I was in Stockholm. We didn't meet up for a drink or anything. I guess I was with a different crowd. I like Stockholm more than Oslo. Is that all right with the Scandi crowd? Are we going to get hate mail for that? I've been to Stockholm quite a bit more than Oslo though, so maybe I'm more familiar with it. But yeah, beautiful people, beautiful town. The Vasa Museum is fantastic, and it's like €15 for a half a pint of beer. So awesome.
Also, those like licoricey sweets that they.
Oh, I like those. Do you like?
Oh man, no.
Salty hard licorice.
I ate one by mistake, and I had to eat like a million biscuits just to try and cleanse myself. No,
I like them. Yeah.
I tell you, I remember I landed in Stockholm and I was meeting mates there because they got a day earlier. So I hire a car, like I think it was one of those airports like miles out of Stockholm. I can't remember which one. And the first thing I do is obviously park up at the first service station and say, right, give me the strongest snus that you've got. And I felt that it had been oversold to me. Like it wasn't like maybe it's just me. Like it didn't really work on me. I didn't experience anything good as a consequence.
No, there's nothing good comes from that. They sell that licorice all over Scandinavia, Finland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark. Yeah, there you go. Iceland. There you go. Just name a bunch of countries.
Have you been to all of those?
I've been to all of those. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. Very good. I think we've run out of things to talk about, Dan. It's coming. What are we going to talk about next weekend when we lose to West Ham at Old Trafford? I mean, there'll be nothing. No. Absolutely pointless. Yeah.
I mean, but West Ham are fucking dreadful, though.
They are. Fortunately, they are one of the few clubs that are dreadfuler than us. There are not many.
Well, it's Devon Tottenham, isn't it?
We are racing. The race for 17th is tight, I tell you. Like they drew today, those two. Otherwise, we could be right down there. Let me just check the table. This great analysis here, Ed. So we are on 39 points. Spurs on 38. West Ham on 37. Everton on 39. What a bunch of cunts there are.
39 points, man.
Minus 9 goal difference. That is Daniel smashing the table.
Oh,
sorry.
Wow. 39 points it is. And how many goals? Goals for?
Goals for 42.
Well, that's
goals against
until
51.
today. So if we kind of sorted that whole situation out today, didn't we? Really?
We are more than a goal a game. Yeah, it's pretty impressive stuff, lads. All right, thank you very much, everyone. We will catch you again after the Bilbao game. If you're watching this, you can catch us on all the apps. Patreon.com/NQAT if you want the extra show. Last week, Tom and I talked about David Beckham, who's 50 years old and remembered some of our favourite parts of his career.
The bit where he met me?
The bit where he met you, yeah.
Outside Tottenham in 1997 before he scores that ridiculous winner.
Oh, yeah, it's classic of the genre. We talked about that one where he bends it into the wrong corner.
Yeah, well, it's just, ridiculous. I actually saw on Twitter, not Twitter, Blue Sky the other day, the free kick that he scores against Villa at the end of 98-99, which is sort of felt like one of the first, maybe the first of the inside-out ones, where the ball goes somewhere where you don't think it's possible for it to go until it's gone there.
Scored a few of those, did Bex. Yeah, very good.
Good player, in my opinion.
Patreon.com/NQAT pod or on your Apple podcast feed. Thanks, everyone. Bye now.
Sorry.